Alright guys, let's get started. So, welcome everyone to the last lecture of the Decal. I know. And so today I thought I would give you guys kind of like a bird's eye view of what you guys have learned, where you go from here, and different things that you guys will hopefully run into in the future. So here is the agenda for today. We're going to start with what you guys have learned, why it's useful and why it's cool, why it's just the beginning of a long journey of learning, and the possible paths you guys can take in the future using the knowledge you guys have gone through this class. So, you guys have learned Rails. And I mean, this is kind of obvious. But Rails itself is kind of like this big old like can of worms that you guys may or may not have realized when you first come for this course. Let's talk about what you guys have really learned. This one. So who knows who this person is? Anyone? Anyone? It's very famous. You guys should know who it is. Anyone? No one. No one knows who he is? Please, guys. Well, at least one of you guys needs to know. This man is Sir Tim Berners-Lee. And he is the person who created something that you guys may have heard of. It's called the internet. And so he was the one who originally invented this thing called HTTP. And because of him, you can do all kinds of cool stuff. And he is probably, without him, Rails would probably not exist. In the beginning of this course, we talked about HTTP, the internet, and why like HTTP is important in order to develop apps for the internet. And the kind of like crux of this idea was this: the browser can communicate with the server on the internet by issuing an HTTP request. Right? In the beginning of the course, we talked about like GET and POST and all of those things. And essentially, his deal was as long as the server returns back the right headers with some content, no matter what your browser is, and no matter what the server is, as long as it adheres to this protocol, then then all is well with the world, and you can continue like, and that's how your internet basically functions, right? And so this is kind of a key piece of abstraction, because we can replace the browser with any other browser, right, like Chrome and Firefox, as long as they issue the HTTP request in the environment. And we can replace the server with anything that we want, as long as the server responds in the environment. Right? So this is kind of a very important thing that enables us to write different kinds of things for the server that are good at different types of things. And so in this class, we learned about one particular type of server backend, which is called Rails. This is an image that you guys are probably familiar with at the beginning of the course, right? So here, we don't talk about HTTP. I'm just going to pretend that Firefox is issuing a request to my server, okay? At this point in the course, you guys know what all the components are. Right? You guys know that when I make a request to /users, it hits my router. The router says, hey, with this link, I should do this. So it sends that stuff over to the controller. The controller then grabs some information from the database, prepares it for the view, and then sends it over to the view, and then the view is what the server responds to, right? So in your browser, when you like go to a link and you receive a web page in response, that's abstraction at work, because your browser said, hey, request. The server goes around and like does a bunch of things, and then it returns back to the right. It returns back a response that adheres to the protocol. Because it does all those things correctly, you get back on the web page. And what's interesting about this, as you guys probably know by now, is that because you can do basically whatever you want on the backend side, you can make the backend side very interesting. And specifically, what makes it very interesting is the fact that you can use a database. So, without a database, your app is pretty much static, right? In the beginning, I was talking about static versus dynamic. Static web pages don't have anything. They might have some like basic logic, but they can't remember anything, which is important when you actually want to have functionality on the web page, right? Because without a database, you can't even have people log into your website. You can't store any information, right? So in essence, one way to really like kind of describe the functionality of Rails in a nutshell is kind of like providing the glue between your browser and a database. But it does much more. And so I have this intimidating picture I would like to show you guys. And this intimidating picture is everything that you must or you should know in order to understand Rails. Okay? So let's see if I can make that smaller. All right. If you look at this diagram, it's like this big old mind map kind of deal. And believe it or not, you guys have all touched parts of this map at some point or another during your time in this course. So if you look here, here's our operating system, the command line, the Ruby language itself, working with gems and libraries, Rails, which is like this big beast right here of like MVC, REST, user management, CLI, action mailer. You guys know how to use Git, how to use a text editor, hopefully by now, database stuff, software engineering stuff. There's a lot of concepts here, right? And I think at times, when you're like kind of in the middle of working on an application, you're kind of lost in the weeds and like, oh yeah, like why is this typo causing me to bug out, like all of these things. But if you take a step back and look at what you guys have really covered in this course, there's a lot of stuff. And all of it is very complex. Each one of these things, you could probably write an entire course about. In fact, there probably is a course about each one of these. But in essence, we kind of paint the important parts of this, the relevant parts, in order for you guys to have a good understanding of Rails and what application you want to generate. Let's switch back. And so you can do more, at this point in the course, you can do more. You can do more than that. You think you guys are very cool. And I think you guys are very cool too. So that is until the internet ends. Although I don't think that's probably going to happen in the near future. So I think we're pretty much good to go. But for Rails, knowing how to use Rails or knowing how to develop for the web is a powerful tool, right? Being able to use the internet as a tool and has enabled you to reach a much wider range of audiences and people than you probably ever imagined you could be able to, right? The internet is like this global thing that anyone with a device that connects to it can access. And being able to kind of harness the power of this thing that has massive reach is really empowering, I think. And it really surprised me. That's what I really enjoy about web development. It's because I can reach many people at once. And kind of the takeaway from this is that like this tool, which is very powerful, and once you know how to use this tool, it gives you a vision. And what I think of vision is this. When I see a problem, and I understand like what the internet and like, what using Rails can do to address this problem, I can look at this problem and say, okay, this is not an impossible problem. I know exactly like how this would work, how I can tackle this problem. In essence, it allows you to really like understand solutions of how to approach problems that you couldn't approach before. And I think this hopefully is clear to you guys to working on your common projects. But this is a 2-minute pass class. We meet once a week. We assign like a couple hours of homework. And web development itself, like whole companies are built around web development, right? And although you get to the basics at this point, there's still like a lot. There's still a lot to learn. And I hope you guys realize that. Like, yes, the basics are good and the basics are powerful, but there's still a long way to go. And, you know, being realistic here, you guys have really just scratched the surface on this kind of like big nest, which is called web development. There is a lot more to kind of how to write apps effectively, like how to work in larger teams, how to write apps that are can deal with many users at once. There's a lot of stuff that we didn't have the chance to cover in this course, but would love to. And so, I encourage you guys to, if you're interested in this kind of thing, if you're interested in becoming like a developer for the web, or like you want to know more about how to use the web, and I encourage you guys to just keep on looking for resources, talking to people about it, and really just building things on their own so you guys can really learn the stuff that we can teach in this course, although those just be open to. So where do we go from here? I'm going to cover the pros and cons of Rails, a little topic related to APIs, and then my own pitches about what I think you should do, but you shouldn't necessarily. Okay, so hopefully we can give you a little bit of direction here, more than this set of science code. So why Rails? Why do we teach Rails in the first place? There's a lot of frameworks out there. You may have heard of some of them. So to give you a taste, there's like Rails for Ruby, there's Django for Python, there's Express for Node.js. There's a lot of other frameworks out there. Why do we choose Rails? For one, Rails is a very mature framework. Okay, so there's a lot of community here. Compared to Django, Rails has tools like twice the number of stars in GitHub, twice the number of questions on Stack Overflow. So there's a lot of resources, and like all people are just using this framework. So it's people have been figuring out the problems as they go. Ruby gems are very well developed, so there's a lot of helpful libraries that people have made to make your life easier. And I think one of the key reasons to use Rails is because development is extremely fast. While you guys are first learning it, it definitely feels like a lot of magic, right? Like you write this on the code and then like the entire app works. And there's a lot happening behind the scenes. But once you understand that magic, the magic just becomes software. And what I mean by that is like, once you know how to deal with the way Rails wants you to do things, it's possible to develop like really powerful apps in a really short amount of time. And that's probably the main reason why it became so popular in the first place. Ruby as a language was developed to make programmers happy. And so that kind of plays out in the way Rails works and the way like and why it became so popular in the first place. So simplicity and conventional configuration are both related to C. And then the question you should actually ask is, when is it not appropriate to use Rails? So Rails is just a framework. It's a tool. And like any other tool, there are some cases where it's very effective, and other cases where it's not. So Rails is not like the one golden hammer that will like hammer every single layer to it. Knowing the limitations of Rails will help you decide whether it's appropriate or not for your next project. So for very simple things, Rails is kind of like this sledgehammer. Because it provides you with all like these defaults, all these things for like models, database, like views, everything at once. If you need something simple, there's another Ruby framework out there called Sinatra, which you may want to look into. Something very simple. If you want to develop a library or something that's not a web app, then you don't want to use Rails because Rails is a web app, naturally. And I think this one is kind of the big one. So if you want to make an app that has a lot of concurrency or like real-time applications, then you might want to also not consider using Rails. Let me explain a little bit what I mean. So let's suppose that we're building a messenger. Okay? So think for a moment how you build things. You have messages, kind of this chat box where I type in a message and press enter, right? And what we have, like based on what we have taught in this service, at the present moment in time, like how that will look is like you have like the list of messages, you have like this input, and when you click enter, you make this is a form, right? So any input you enter is a form. So you click enter, and the message goes to the server. The server responds, and your page refreshes. And that page refresh part is kind of like the kill, right? Because you don't want your page have to refresh completely every time you send something over. There are ways to get around this in Rails, but I think if you want anything like truly real time, as in like, for example, like push notifications, then you can use this. Basically, there's more stuff you have to do. If you're interested in this kind of thing, like using Redis alongside Rails is like one alternative. But I think for most other cases, people tend to use Node.js just because it's more suited for that kind of thing. The reason for that is this: when I send a message over to the other, the other person on the receiving end of the message should see my message like right away, right? What needs to happen in order for that to work? If I click enter, I tell the server, hey, I made a message. But on the other side of the equation, the other person listening to my message, how does the other person know when the server received the message? The only way for that person to actually like receive that message in real time without having to refresh the page is if the server can talk to the client, right? If the server can say, hey, you, like on the other side of this, like, hey, Howard, like, Sam sent you a message. You should like update the page, refresh the page, and something. If the server could talk to the client in that way, that would enable like truly real-time things. Rails by default does not have this functionality, so there are some workarounds. Redis allows you to do this, and like the kind of quick and easy alternative to this is to just so one thing I would do is just have some code that checks the like just hitting the server every once in a while, figure out the messages, but that's not truly in real time. It's called home. And so that's kind of one limitation of this, which is kind of unfortunate. I'm going to talk a little bit about APIs. So at this point in the course, we've seen this model of a web application, right? So Rails is all the stuff in the bubble. It has models that communicate with the database. It has controllers, which grab the database up for the view. And the views themselves, which when the server sends it back to the client can say, okay, I'm just going to display this page. What the server sent me. And then on the web browser takes that view and manages it. This is like kind of what we know today. And an API for, okay, so the API stands for application, it stands for application program interface. Essentially, an API is a way for other programs to communicate with the server, not just for one person. Okay? And so, what this means is that, so let's compare the two. So, the original model is the server does the computation, and it sends back HTML. In other words, it sends back a presentation, right? It sends back what to display on screen. In an API, the key difference between an API and a web application is that an API sends data. Okay, so in the original model of Rails, the server sends back the view, it sends back presentation. In an API, the server sends data. And the way we typically these days is via JSON. JSON is just kind of like this. It's just kind of like, it's pretty much like data in the form of text. And what happens is, I don't know if you guys can see that on the slide there, but on the client side, instead of just a browser that renders a view, it's a browser that has some client-side JavaScript. So this is a model of web application that you see typically for like single-pane applications, messaging services, that sort of thing, where instead of the server sending a view, the server sends data, And then the client-side JavaScript, as in your browser, the JavaScript that's running in your browser, decides how to present that data to your user. And you can, so the difference here is that when the server, so in the previous model, the reason why your pages have to refresh when you request is because the server sends back a completely new HTML file when you request, right? Whereas in the API model of computation, the server sends back some data. Your JavaScript runs and decides, hey, we should update only this part of the page, not the entire page. And so we have a little bit of client-side. So there are a lot of like client-side JavaScript frameworks out there, and to kind of give you like a brief intro, because they're becoming more and more popular these days, as people kind of like edge away from this model where every page refreshes on request. I'll give you guys a quick little intro to these three frameworks. So the idea behind all of these three is that, as I mentioned before, service and data, and these frameworks decide what's updated in. So Backbone.js is kind of like a bare bones framework, and essentially what it provides you is the ability to kind of like have JavaScript logic on the client side. As in, instead of having state solely in the server, you also have some state on the client side. What that means is, for example, let's use a canonical like to-do app example. This app is like where you have like a text field of like something I should be doing. You type in, you press enter, you get added to a list of items, right? You can type enter again. There's like more and more items. I didn't have it as an example today, but you can imagine that happening. And what background? So how you build it normally in Rails is you have the text field. When you press enter, it submits a form. The sub goes to the server. The server creates like a to-do item in the database, sends back a new like list of to-dos to your user. Okay? So in that process, your page will refresh. You press enter, the page refreshes, and now you have the new item that you just added inside this. How Backbone will do it is you have like, so what it does is it reads the information from the server first. It stores that on your browser in the JavaScript. So when you type this up into that field, and you press enter, your item gets added to the to-do list. What will happen is Backbone takes that stuff and makes a request to the server while you're not watching, basically. There's no browser. You press enter, Backbone reads what you entered in, sends it over to the server. The server does the same thing. It creates like this to-do item in the database, it does whatever it does. And because your server, in this case, will have to be an API instead of like a normal Rails, like instead of a normal Rails app. So we send back some data saying, hey, this is the new item that you created. And then Backbone says, okay, this is my data. Because I know that there's a new item in my list of items, I'm going to go update the list without having to refresh it. Without having to refresh the page. So that's pretty much what Backbone does. It essentially provides the glue between your browser and the database and your server without having you like refresh the page. And so frameworks, so Backbone is kind of like the main framework that people started using because it was one of the first frameworks to do something like this, so it became very popular. And after that, they kind of branched out from there into different types of frameworks. Some of them like doing a lot more than Backbone, and some of them doing a lot less. So one framework that does a lot more is called Angular. So Angular.js and Ember.js, those are two like very heavyweight frameworks. Basically, they're very opinionated in what they do. And so essentially, they kind of just like they essentially manage your entire application. Meaning that like when you click the link and you go to a button, they do everything. So your entire app, in an Angular app or an Ember app, your entire application is pretty much subject to this framework. And that's the reason why you have people like So we have some companies recruiting specifically for AngularJS devs or AngularJS devs because these risks are so large and they do a lot of stuff. In some cases, you do want your game to do a lot of stuff. But if you have been keeping up with the development in the world in the past couple of years or so, even, a lot of people are moving away from these large monolithic frameworks into like smaller libraries and components that we can piece together in an application. Okay? And that's kind of the main reason, or that's one of the reasons why React, the third one on that list, is becoming so popular today. The reason for this kind of like change in mindset was that people who developing in JavaScript, because JavaScript only recently became very popular, a lot of development has been going. So there's like a new library or a new like component almost every single week in the JavaScript universe. And because things are changing so rapidly, these very large frameworks aren't really able to keep up with all that change because they require, so for example, Angular is made by Google. So to make a change, like Google engineers have to approve it and get that released into the framework. So these frameworks often kind of lag behind the rest of the world in terms of and because they're so opinionated and what you can do with them, it's like very difficult. You have to like wrangle with these frameworks in order to include like real things in JavaScript. And so React kind of emerged as an alternative to this. All React is doing is all React does is manage the user interface of the application. So if anything that has interaction, React kind of like works with that and makes that work. But it does not have any built-in capability to communicate with the server. Okay, so whereas Backbone and Angular themselves actually follow like this MVC thing. So you can have like MVC on the server side as well as MVC on your client side. The reason why it's MVC is because similar to Rails, Backbone and Angular, they communicate with your server, they grab some data. And they have like some logic and they communicate it to you. Just like the one MVC happens. React.js is pretty much just the MVC. It's just the views. If you're interested, I encourage you to look at the way like, how it works and what it allows you to do. I don't have time to cover it today, but it has pretty much like it's pretty much it was kind of the pioneer of like this new mindset of what and how to use JavaScript once years before, in that it's a component that doesn't really do much besides what it's made to do. And so because of that, you can like use React in combination with a lot of other frameworks and do that. And so that's something that people liked about it. And two, it changed the way people run in JavaScript. And the reason for that, you can investigate on your own. But it was kind of like this. There's kind of this paradigm change in the way people write JavaScript on the front end. But all three of these frameworks have been kind of the major figures in JavaScript development. Yes. Okay, cool. Let's take a 2-minute break. Let me ask you guys a good question. So, give me some feedback on your progress on the project. So, thumbs up means we're doing well, we're on track, like everything's under control. Sideways means okay, but I feel we could be better. And then thumbs down is like we could do a lot more with this. So, just give me some feedback. I'm not gonna value anything at all. I'm really conscious. I just want to know like where we are in the class. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. See you. Okay, so before we move on, do you guys have any questions or concerns about anything I brought up in kind of like this first part of the question? Okay. So I've kind of covered one, like where we are in the class. So I've covered like kind of like what the learning class is. We've covered kind of like what are the possibilities of things we can do. We've covered why it matters. It matters because we can impact and reach a lot of people that you're going to use for. And I've kind of given you a little bit of like the technical side of like things you can look at in the future, and different routes we can take, and different things we can investigate. So specifically, like APIs and different JavaScript. And now I'm going to give you my opinion. I kind of say it's with hesitation because I understand that as like one person speaking to a lot of people, there is like no chance that what I'm about to say will like apply to everybody at the same time. However, I will say that the things that I'm about to talk about have definitely helped me a lot in kind of finding the focus and things to work on, the things that I'm feeling for myself. And so, one, this is just my opinion. And two, but one is my opinion, but two, I hope that maybe it'll be thinking of something that I would consider. So I'm going to start with social good. I feel kind of obligated to say this because I'm part of a movement, and as a club, we kind of just sit down and we talk. We like try to think of ways to use what we know to benefit nonprofits. And I would say that process has been very interesting. I really into it because it was very interesting, very technical. Right? Like you program this thing, and suddenly you can like read like this long file, you program about data, you can basically harness the power of a computer and the things that computers are good at in order to make your life easier. That's kind of like the reason why I kind of got into CS and like I thought it was really awesome. And I came to Berkeley and I kind of tried my hand out at a bunch of different things. One of those being like coding for nonprofits, which is pretty much what Blueprint does. I'm not saying like this you should learn Blueprint. I'm just saying that Blueprint focuses on social good, and I think that you should probably consider it if you have Blueprint. Why? Well, to me it seems kind of interesting that kind of like so I'm gonna go a little philosophical here, but bear with me. So it seems to me kind of interesting that kind of like as a species, we care a lot about our own happiness. Right? Like I want to do this because it makes me happy, I want to do this because it will make me successful, which will make me happy. Right? And it seems interesting that kind of like we're very concerned about our own happiness, which is like very logical and very good. We should be. But at the same time, like, focusing on yourself is not often makes people unhappy. It's kind of like a paradox, right? And it seems to be the case that a lot of people who are like kind of devoting themselves to give back to the community and all that stuff, those are people that actually seem to be happy, which is kind of paradoxical because they seem to have less than people who are like, concerned about themselves. Anyway, it's all goes to say that I think that looking for opportunities to get involved in things that like are for social good, things that will benefit other people, is something that is very, very fulfilling in a lot of ways that I did not expect when I first got into it. And like kind of right now in college is maybe like one of your last chances to do so. Because when you start working for companies, you're working for a salary, we're going to be working for basically whole days of our lives. And at this point in time, like, people who I know have tried their hand out at developing things for social good. I found that like, hey, this is like really fun and very impactful in a lot of ways. Not only because like helping other people, which is awesome, but also because people who are kind of involved in this sector, or people who are kind of involved in this space, they don't really know technology. They don't really know what technology can do. Right? People, like before you use CS, you would never have imagined yourself like kind of coming here and being able to kind of solve these types of problems that you're solving right now. And because of that, like kind of like the power of CS kind of like amplifying the effectiveness of things that I guess are centered around like benefiting other people is really fulfilling. And it's my personal recommendation that if you haven't tried it out already, like do try it out. Get involved with some people who are doing like nonprofit work, anything at all. And I hope that you find us fulfilling time. Okay. So something else that I truly believe is that when you care about learning itself, that is when you really start to enjoy the things that you're involved in. And I think it's kind of, so I have an opinion on this because I care about, I'm interested in education. I'm an education minor. I've been kind of like doing these things and thinking about how students develop. And I think kind of one thing that really kind of eats me up is how oftentimes like people learn wherever. And I don't know, that just seems to me kind of unfortunate because what is happening? So I'll give you a little tidbit of like the education world. What is happening is that people in math classes, just as an example, they kind of like pattern match, which means that they see like a certain pattern on the test, like when I divide fractions and flip the second one and multiply, and I get the answer and it's always right, you know? And they kind of pattern match. And that's okay because that's all the tests really care about. And because of that, when they get into like when they start getting into more advanced topics, they all of a sudden like the things that they're used to know how to do, like they don't really understand because they never really developed that. that's why you hear some people today saying that. It's because it's just because like the current system kind of incentivizes you to get around the test. And I think that's really unfortunate. And I think one thing that has really helped me kind of, I guess, deal with a lot of things is like this mindset of if I try something out and it works out well and I succeed, then good. It works out, like awesome. And if I try it out but it doesn't work out and it fails, if I learn something from the process, like how do I really fail? It's just part of it. I take it as like, as long as I can learn something from the process, that's all that really matters to me. And I think that's very powerful in an interesting way because the things that happen in your circumstances, you can't really change. Right? Like some stuff happens here and there, all around you, you have no influence on that. But because of that, like you think your life can be like good or bad. But that's kind of stuff that so I used to worry about, and I think for me, like that sort of thing made me worry about because it was like I have no control over it, so I really can't decide whether things are good or bad. And I think in that state is kind of what it really what should have brought up questions for me. As if I can't control about it, and I'm still worried about it, like what's the point of worrying? And I think for me, what really helped me is that as long as what's up there is constant. As in, like, it's not constant, it's integrated, it changes all the time. But as long as I choose to learn as much as I can in the process, that's all that really matters to me, and that, as long as I can do that, then all is well. And this is just something that has helped me a lot, and I encourage you guys to really think about learning for the sake of learning. But the problem with that is that learning for the sake of learning is kind of selfish, I think. Because as you're learning, you kind of like get information to yourself, and you stick more knowledge into your head. And what's the point if you never share that knowledge with other people? And so, kind of the reason why I got into education in the first place is because one, it seemed very natural that as I learned, I kind of just get back to other people because otherwise, there's really no purpose for it. And two, because teaching has a lot of impact. Like one good high school teacher can really change someone's life, and that's one of the reasons why I believe so heavily in teaching and education and all of that. I'm not saying don't be a teacher. I'm not saying that you can do education, but I would urge you guys to really try your hand at it if you haven't probably do it before. And in the process, you may find you may like it, you may find you don't like it. But either way, you're trying to help out someone else who needs it. And that to me is just really fulfilling. And this naturally leads me into asking you guys if you want to talk about the course. You guys want to help out in the course next. So we're releasing the forum piazza. If you're interested in helping out in the course in any way, preparing material, grading, doing lectures, anything at all, we will love your help. And we just really want to make this course a great experience for other people. And we benefit a lot from the people who are taking the course, especially just because they are there and they can see things that we can't. And so, if you're interested, we would love your help. I would love to meet with you. Unfortunately, in a class of this size, I don't even know everyone's name, which is really kind of like sad to me. Although I would love to. And I'm sure like the other TAs would love to as well. But I'm just going to say, since I'm the one prepared today, that I would like to meet with you. If you would like to meet with me and talk about Decal. So please send me a message, send me anything. If you'd like to get in contact with me, I will make myself available for you. And I would love to hear about you. And
Are there any questions on anything? Okay. Yes.
What CSS frameworks do you recommend?
Sorry, what was that?
CSS frameworks.
What CSS frameworks do I recommend? Okay. So I don't develop in CSS. I develop, so browsers only understand CSS. But CSS like by itself is kind of like not that great. And you quickly realize that if you've ever used Sass before, which is what I personally recommend to other people. So let me see if I can pull it up. So Sass actually ships by default in Rails. Also, this is not my own laptop. I hope you don't judge the flowers. Okay, so it's not loading really quickly. Okay, so basically this is Sass. It comes by default in Rails. I don't think we really covered it in this course, but essentially what's nice about it is that it has a lot of features that people wish were in CSS but aren't. And so if you're interested in learning about it, I recommend you do, just because it's very useful, widely used, and Rails comes with it by default. Now in terms of frameworks themselves, I personally use this little framework called Bourbon. I used to pronounce it Bourbon. That's the way it looked like it was spelled. But Bourbon essentially is kind of this little framework for Sass that just has a lot of mixins. It's pretty much just like a bunch of very helpful like helper functions for CSS that make life a lot easier. So for example, like this transform guy, normally for CSS you have to specify all the different browsers, but you normally have to show like you normally have to include a rule for every single browser that could possibly like read the CSS file. Bourbon allows you to kind of do that in one line, and it does like the output of that for you. So it's really awesome and really cool. Other popular CSS frameworks include like Bootstrap and Foundation, which I'm sure many of you guys have heard about. I don't think this is the right website. But these two are also very popular, and these are kind of more stuff. So they have a lot of, so these two actually have like stylings for buttons, stylings for tables and like lists. So these two are kind of like more heavyweight, and they're a little bit more opinionated about what you can do. But all in all, they're very solid and they're widely used. So personally, I moved away from these two to Bourbon and other frameworks that the Thoughtbot company has produced, but that's just my personal take on it. And I would encourage you guys to experiment around with it if you guys want to. Any other questions? Yeah.
Howard said last week that Heroku could be making everything paid.
Yes. Yeah, so the concern was that Heroku said that they're going to be making everything paid. That's kind of unfortunate. So the deal, if you haven't heard about it, is in the past, Heroku will give you one dyno for free. And basically what people were doing was that they could like push it out to Heroku, set up a service to, so normally Heroku kind of sleeps your dyno after 30 seconds of activity, I believe, or like some amount of time. And unfortunately, what that meant for them was that as long as you set up a service to kind of ping your app all the time, then your dyno would never shut down. And because the dyno was like pretty powerful, you could serve like probably several thousands or tens of thousands of users for free using Heroku services. And so they're kind of losing money from that, I think, probably. And so what they decided to do was that they decided to charge for their basic one dyno tier. Which is kind of unfortunate. So I believe they're charging $60 a month or about $2. So I don't think any of this is official yet, but from the way it looks, that's kind of the state of Heroku. They are allowing you to develop like, so they allow apps to run for like 12 hours a day for free, and then I guess that works in some cases when you're developing on it, but when you actually want to push something out to production, you want it to be up all the time. So if you wanted to pay $7 a month, that's one option. Other than that, I'm not really sure of any like free options for hosting. Yeah, I know that there are probably some services out there, but I don't know of anything that's quite as easy as Heroku to use. Have you looked into this, Howard?
Wasn't there a thing called Grok? I mean, the thing is basically you can turn your own computer to server, so if you never turn off your computer, people can ping it all the time and you have a server for free. But that's the best I know for free options.
I don't know if you really want to do that, because if someone gets past your security, they can potentially mess with your computer. So yeah, but as of right now, I haven't really seen like free alternatives. If someone goes around and finds something that's like a good enough replacement, please share with us, because I would like to know as well. I think Heroku is still relatively cheap for what it does. If you wanna go cheaper, that basically your options there are like using AWS or DigitalOcean for hosting, and those require a lot more work. Just because instead of just like git push to Heroku, you have to deal with like an actual computer. What that means is like DigitalOcean, DigitalOcean and AWS actually give you like computers. So you just like run Rails server on production mode like from those computers, and those will like serve up your app. So it's definitely not as simple as like git push Heroku master. Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of the question. Yes. Any other questions? Well, I was planning to go until 6:30, so maybe I'll just stand here for 25 minutes. I'm serious. Ask me a question. Yeah.
What's the favorite class you've taken at Berkeley? CS and ops?
Oh, favorite class I'm taking at Berkeley. I think for a CS class, I'm really enjoying 170 right now, which is algorithms. It's very interesting. I would say I think when I took 188 for the first time, so I actually took 188 before I came to Berkeley through edX because they put it up. And that was a course that pretty much convinced me to do CS. Because for those of you who aren't familiar, 188 is like artificial intelligence, and pretty much like you just make Pac-Man smarter over the course of this class. And I remember like doing the assignments and like sitting down in high school next to my friend and going like, yo, like, look at this, my Pac-Man can like avoid the ghost, or like my robot can learn to crawl, and I thought it was just really cool. Non-CS, I'm really enjoying Wealth and Poverty, so I'm in the class right now. Wealth and Poverty is extremely good. If you haven't taken it, definitely check it out. Robert Reich, I hope he's still teaching next year. But basically, the former Secretary of Labor is teaching it. It's about the state of inequality in the United States. I found it very eye-opening because he talks about the state of the entire U.S. and things that kind of affect inequality or poverty or wealth that pertain to government, politics, and things that like wide sweeping policy, more or less. In contrast to what I normally hear about in CS, which is like the wealth and poverty of Silicon Valley, which is just wealth, I guess. Yeah, so it's very eye-opening because it really like makes you realize that we're kind of just living in this nice little place, but there's more to the country and more to the world than like just us. So And if you haven't taken an education class yet, I recommend education classes. I'm in education 130 right now, and it's a class on science and math teaching. Essentially in the class, what we do is every week we come in and we do a problem. And so the way it's structured is like, how can teachers improve their teaching by asking the right questions to students? So you can compare, for example, asking students like multiply these fractions and get the right answer to something more interesting. So for example, in the first week of the class, we were given an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and we were asked, draw a 6-inch line. So you can take a moment and think about how you would do that. So there's no ruler, obviously. So it's just like a sheet of paper, a printed paper, draw a 6-inch line. And so in the class, we kind of like did a bunch of things. I did this crazy thing with like folding and tearing, like origami, like whatever. And there was like one very simple solution, which was like super elegant. But the takeaway from that was like, there is like a kind of like a right answer, quote unquote, to how you draw, like to get to the 6-inch line. But asking that kind of question enables students to really use like the knowledge that they had before and like kind of like be creative about the way they do this in a way that normal questions are not. So the class is very like problem centered. Well, not full of problems, but it's like centered around how to ask the right questions. And it's very interesting. I go to Berkeley High School too. I go to Berkeley High School on Mondays for 2 hours a week in that course. And so it's very interesting. It's very interesting, and I highly recommend. Yeah.
So, where do you plan your career to go? Do you want to go into the education sector or business sector?
You know, I get asked this a lot, and my answer is I have no freaking clue. Yeah, I think, so personally, I get bored of things very quickly. And so I could see myself working in the industry for a couple of years, but then I feel like after like my learning kind of plateaus there, I'll get really bored. I do want to teach at some point in my life for some number of years, which are to be determined. But I don't know, being a lecturer would be kind of cool, or being a high school teacher or elementary school would be kind of cool. So we'll see where it goes. We'll see where it goes. Yeah. Yeah.
So if you draw the 6-inch line, you like hold the 11 side, so it's like 5.5, and then you have 8.5 on one end, right? So you get one sheet of paper.
You can get as many as you want.
Are you okay? So yeah, you have 5.5 and 8.5, and the difference between the two is like 3 perfectly. So it's just 3, you get 6, or like.
That's one way to do it. Did everyone understand that? So my friend Andy's method to do the 6-inch line question is take the 11-inch side, fold it in half to get 5.5 inches, and then take another sheet of paper, which is 8.5, and then the difference there is 3 inches. So you can make 6 inches by doubling that. So I think the most elegant way to do that question is you take two sheets of paper and you put the 8.5 sides together, right? So it's 8.5 plus 8.5, which is 17. And if you take a third sheet of paper and put the 11-inch side here, like this, you get 17 minus 11, which is 6. Yeah, I had this crazy like folding the corners, tearing the paper, like measuring this, like proportions, and yeah, I was like, when I saw that, I was like, wow, this is awesome. Yeah.
Didn't you fold it didn't you fold one into half twice, and then you have 3 or 4 sections of 2 inches each?
It's 8.5.
Oh, it's 8.
Paper is 8.5. Yeah.
Do you have anything to say about Go, which I read a lot about?
Oh, so my question was, do you have anything to say about Go? For those who aren't familiar, Go is this language created by Google, and it's gotten quite a bit of attention recently. So Go as a language itself is meant as a systems programming language. So more or less like to replace C and C++. It was made by Google. And it's got a lot of attention recently because it runs code pretty quickly. Like very quickly, actually. Typically Go is used when you want your code to be faster. And so I think in the case of developing a web application, development speed is definitely still like Ruby on Rails all the way, pretty much. And I think for a lot of companies, what they do is like if they have an existing Ruby on Rails app and they want certain computationally expensive parts of the app to run faster, they just kind of like replace that part of the app with like a Go process or like a Go service. And because of that, they can do a lot of things more quickly, and then they still have like the advantage of like working in Rails. So I think that's kind of like the current state of what it is. Although feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, I think Go has been getting a lot of attention recently for the right reasons. Yeah.
I mean, just to add to that question or the answer. So actually, recently I've been playing around with Go just to test it out as a web framework, and I mean, I think it's really cool that it has a lot of cool features. It compiles really fast. I don't know if you guys used Scala before. It's one of those up-and-coming frameworks too. Scala takes actually forever to compile relative to Go. Go just, it compiles and you run it, and like when you try these other frameworks, you'll kind of appreciate Rails because it takes way longer to build anything in like something like Go because it's made to be more like it handles less things. It's only supposed to handle like your server logic. One thing that's kind of crappy I think about Go is the fact that since it's a compiled language, it doesn't have like the ability to add like methods to your models at runtime. So you know how it's really convenient that you can do like user.name and then you actually get the string back. It's because the user model does all this inference. It looks at the database and it gives itself like a method. Since Go is a compiled language, it can't do that. So when you for accessing a database and just trying to write really simple code for that is actually pretty, I would just say, shitty. So that's just more info. But like if you get to the point where your application needs that speed, like you get so many like users that Rails just is taking too long and you want a performance boost, I think I'd recommend Node first. And second, like at the point you're at that size, you probably have enough funding from some VC to hire like an engineering team to do a switch for you. So just input from me.
Yeah. So one of the things that Rails is kind of like known for is it kind of runs code slowly, and that's because Ruby itself is an interpreted language, and it was designed not for speed but for like fast development, which is kind of like give or take. It might be more important for you in your case, or it might not be. It just turns out that for a lot of, for example, startups or like people like who are like developing web applications, like they want to get their product out and like develop features for it as soon as they possibly can. And so that's why like Ruby on Rails got really popular. Typically, it is the case that for like very large apps or like very complicated apps, people either like move parts of it to different languages like Go or C, and I don't think many people like do I've seen companies do switches, but it's often like kind of a lot of work because switching the entire like framework is a lot of pain. So that's just kind of like what it is at this point in time. Yeah. Okay. If there are no final questions, we can call it a day. I'll just scan the crowd, look into everyone's eyes. All right. Well, thank you guys for having me, and I really look forward to seeing you guys' screencasts for your final projects next week. Thanks, guys. Yes, I will do that. Oh yeah, so stay tuned. I'm gonna put the checking code right now. This is the code for today. So go ahead and enter it in, and I'll see you guys next week. This one? It's really on this. Oh, it's on what service? Oh, this is on Heroku right now. So, yeah.
When you used to that an engine like that, right?
Oh, yeah. So the normal URL does have a document format. If you buy a domain, you can like point it to your Heroku URL. So that's why we use railsdecon.com. Because we just bought the name and we pointed it to the URL. So that's kind of how it works. It's very simple. Yeah, you can do it.
I'm like done for today.
I like